Okay, everyone, this is John Jenkins here, and I'm going to bring you a video where I talk about the next 30 books that I read this year. Um, Going all the way to 60, although, well, I'm probably going to read 62 books this year. I'm reading one book by Daniel Steele right now, and I've got another book by John Grisham that I'm going to be finishing before January 1st. But those books are not finished yet, so I wanna talk about the books that I finished because I've got a nice solid line going all the way from January to December. Every book from 1 to 60 that I started, I have finished. And so let's go to number 31. Number 31, let's see. Number 31. Okay, number 31, The Big Talk by Deborah Fine. Basically, it's about how to have important conversations at work. And there's some nice little tidbits in there. It even talks about how to write letters, how to write emails, things of that nature. And Contagious by Jonah Berger. Very useful book. I read it from May 5th to May 12th. I finished it in 4 days. From May 9th to May 12th, I finished it in 4 days. It talks about why certain things catch on, like why do certain cat videos on YouTube get 1 million views while other cat videos get 0? Why do why do certain restaurants become popular while other restaurants don't? And so he has the 6 steps, STEPPS. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but that's what that's all about. Rule number 1 by Phil Town, from May 14th to May 18th. This is an investing book, how to invest in the stock market and become successful as a stock market investor. It's a very obvious way of looking at things, but in reality, things are not that obvious, So this he says that his strategy is the guaranteed way to never lose money in the stock market. And you can look at the stock market today and see that this type of strategy is not going to be foolproof. You're still going to have risk. So, but it's a very entertaining read. It gives you a lot to think about, and that's what the book is about. The Digital Economy by Don Tapscott. Basically, this is a book that goes through all the ways that the internet in particular are going to change the economy, and it's I don't remember a lot about the book, but it talks about business process reengineering. It just talks about all the ways that technology are going to change our economy. It talks about how technology is going to change healthcare. It's really just a technology book that is very popular, that a lot of people have bought, and The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. This is a book that basically is given away by its title. the obstacle is away means that, well, it's not that obvious. It's not that obvious what it means. Like, is the obstacle is away? Does that mean that I use I defeat the obstacle by not changing it, or is the obstacle is away? Does that mean that I defeat the obstacle by I defeat the obstacle by focusing on the obstacle? Am I supposed to try to change the obstacle, or am I supposed to live with the obstacle, coexist with the obstacle? So that's the only thing that's confusing me about it. But I didn't spoil it. It's a very entertaining read, very entertaining, and it goes through a lot of stuff. It's about Stoicism. If you've ever researched that, not the suicide part of Stoicism, but Stoicism in general. The Center Holds by Jonathan Alter. This is a book that I read from June 13th to July 4th. And it's a book about, let's see, I believe it is a book about the last months of Obama's first term, when he was running for re-election against I actually forgot his name, the Mormon guy. The Mormon guy. He was running for re-election against the Mormon guy. I actually forgot his name. So basically, it talks about Obama's campaign strategy. It's a very left-leaning book, So it talks from the perspective of, these evil Republicans want to take all of our goodies, and Obama's our savior. He's gonna save all of the extra entitlements that we didn't even need before, that we suddenly cannot live without. And so number 37, The Phoenix Effect by Carter Pate and Harlan Platt, from July 5th to July 15th. So basically, this is a book about how to turn a company around if it is floundering. And it has 3 different levels. Are you a little bit behind? Are you a little bit behind? Are you moderately behind? Or are you really, kicking dust up in your business? And then it has a separate strategy for each scenario. And there's a special message at the end of the book that I really enjoy. So Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. From July 17th to July 27th. This is a special book. This is a book where if you read it in public, people will ask you about it. People will want to read, people want to sample the book. People want to, somebody borrowed the book from me the first time somebody ever borrowed a book from me. People want to know what you're reading, people want to know. So, that's a very special book. It has a lot of declarations in it. The thing that I didn't like about another book, which was Think and Grow Rich, was that it talked about declarations, and I was like, I'm not going to get rich by just making this chant. But the more I read about getting rich, more and more people are telling me do the declarations. So I started doing declarations. So that was the thing that I remember about this book. It's a book that a lot of people will want to read when they see you reading it in public. The first time that ever happened to me with a book. So 39, The Millionaire Booklet. It takes a few hours to read from cover to cover. It's by Grant Cardone. I read it from July 29th to July 31st. What else? Well, it talks. It's mainly what the book is saying is that you need to increase your income, and that's the one thing that about getting rich that I never really considered, which is that, you know, if you want to get rich, you need to increase your income, and there's a lot more in the book, but that's what the thrust of the book is trying to tell you. That's the point of the book. Heat Storm by Richard Castle, from July 29th to August 12th. It is written by the guy who was in Firefly, and he's using a character from one of his TV shows as a pen name. So basically, this is about two investigators, Heat and Storm. One is a special forces operative, and it goes through both of their lives. Heat is a woman and Storm is a man. So it goes through their adventures fighting the Chinese mafia. So yeah, that's what that story's about. How Successful People Think by John C. Maxwell. From August 3rd to August 5th. Basically, I had already read this book. I had already read parts of the Maxwell Reader, and I'd already seen a video from John C. Maxwell on YouTube. So I was sort of familiar with him, and it's a very helpful book of all the ways, all of the categories of thinking that successful people do. Whether it's realistic thinking, possibility thinking, all the different categories of thinking that successful people do. So, yeah, if you're a big thinker, you should check it out. Armada by Ernest Cline. It is a science fiction book based around video games, and I was not expecting that, even though, you know, if you look at the cover, it's pretty obvious, but I was expecting something completely different, and it was a very helpful book because it helped me, you know, understand my creativity a little bit more. I'm not the only one, you know what I mean. And that's it. And The Narrow Road by Felix Dennis, number 43. And let me check this out because I think, yep, I already read the book. So one of these books is listed twice because I read it twice, but I'm still not supposed to list it twice in the same year. So I in reality, I'm only going to read 61 books this year because, yeah. So The Narrow Road by Felix Dennis, I already talked about this in the last video. Number 44, Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi, from August 23rd to August 27th. Basically, it goes through just a bunch of habits that, you know, he developed over the years. Yes, he does do declarations or chants. but there's also, he's an advocate of not reading the news, which is not really a good idea in my situation, because I need to know what's happening in the world in order to have business ideas. So yeah. But he talks about different habits that successful people have, different things you can do to become successful. Yeah. And Sweetness by Jeff Pearlman from August 29th to September 5th. So it took me 7 days to read this book. I was very happy to read this book because I wanted to read about Sweetness or Walter Payton for many years. I had seen the book on the shelf, and I kept passing it by, But yeah, that's what the book is about. It talks about his life, how he used to be a really chubby kid. I forgot what they used to call him, but it was a really a chubby kid name for his nickname. And it talked about his father and how his father lived and died. And so, yeah, that was a very entertaining book to read. And it talked about the 85 Bears, which is also very entertaining. Selected short stories of William Faulkner from August 30th to September 18th. So it took me 20 days to read, because August has 31 days in it. It took me 20 days to read that book. Let's see. The first time I read it, there was a lot of stuff that I couldn't understand. Of course, the book is written in English, but his writing style is like a puzzle, and you have to decode what he's trying to say. And I always said that if I could only have one book for the rest of my life, it would be Selected Short Stories of William Faulkner. If I could only have one book, that's what I. There were a few notable stories, like the one about when the Native Americans took their child to the local authorities to be punished, and the authorities said he didn't need to be punished, but the Native Americans insisted, punish our child. Yeah, that was hilarious. So. Next, Writing Screenplays That Sell by Michael Haig from September 7th to September 13th. I consider myself a screenwriter because I have written a screenplay. I haven't written one in the past year, but I have written a screenplay, so yeah. And this is a book that gives you strategies for how to write the screenplay, how to get an agent, how to get into the studio business. That's all I have to say about that. And number 48, Finding Your African American Ancestors by David T. Thackeray from September 20th to September 28th. Basically, this is a book that talks about finding your ancestors, and I had a really hard time finding my ancestors using Ancestry.com because their records are incomplete, and it's really not as simple as you think it is, especially considering that my ancestors were slaves. So you're not going to find those records on a traditional ancestry website. You're going to have to do a lot more digging. And I got a lot of good tips. Luckily, my family comes from Mississippi, and they have more complete records in Mississippi. Let's see. That's all I have to say about that. And The Whistler by John Grisham is not what you think it is. The Whistler is not who you think it is what I'm saying. And it's a John Grisham novel, so it's going to have a lot of legalese and a lot of stuff like that. So, it's a legal novel. I have another John Grisham book from the library, which is Camino Island, which is probably gonna be the last book I read this year. And number 50, The EQ Leader by Stephen J. Stein, PhD, from 9/28 to 10, from September 28 to October 3rd. And the EQ Leader is about emotional intelligence, or EQ, and I did not. Well, it's an advertisement for their EQ measurement tool. It doesn't really teach you about emotional. It can't. I guess it can't teach you, but it's not. Its purpose is not to teach you about emotional intelligence. It's about measuring your emotional intelligence, and how you can pay them to measure your EQ and tell you how good of a leader you are. And that's what the book is about, So that's 31 through 50. I'll do the last 10 next week, and I guess I should go to 61 because one of the books is a double, so I guess I should go to 61, and I'll be done with the Danielle Steele book by next week. So thanks for watching, and have a nice day. Goodbye.